When someone betrays you, especially someone you loved, trusted, and gave your heart to, it shakes the very foundation of your soul. Your mind runs through 1,000 moments, the laughter you shared, the sacrifices you made, the times you defended them when everyone else doubted them, and then it hits you like a cold wave in the dead of night. They didn't just betray your trust, they gambled with something sacred, something they will never be able to get back, and that's where the price begins. Because life has a way of balancing the scales. It might not be immediate and it might not be in the way you expect, but betrayal carries a debt written into the fabric of human existence. And that debt will be collected. When your ex chose betrayal, they thought they were clever, they thought they were escaping consequences, but they were, without realizing it, signing their own sentence. They underestimated the law of cause and effect, the brutal accuracy of reality when it comes to justice. People who betray convince themselves they've won. They think they've taken advantage of your kindness, your love, your patience. They convince themselves you'll stay broken while they move on untouched. But reality doesn't allow such imbalance for long. The same hand that they use to stab you in the back is the same hand they will watch crumble when they reach for comfort and find nothing there. They are paying the price not just in what they've lost, but in the person they've become because of their choice. When you betray someone who loved you, you change something in yourself. You chip away at your integrity and you damage your ability to trust others because you know deep down what you're capable of doing. You can put on a smile, post perfect pictures, surround yourself with people who tell you you're fine, but there's always that gnawing in your chest. That is the cost. The loneliness in a room full of people, the quiet at night when the noise dies down and the truth comes back. That's when they pay. See, you've been busy healing. You've been rebuilding, maybe slowly, maybe painfully, but steadily. You've been turning the hurt into fuel, the betrayal into clarity. They, on the other hand, have been running from themselves. And you can only run from yourself for so long before you trip. They will trip. And when they do, the fall will be brutal. The price of betrayal is not always public humiliation or a dramatic downfall. It's often quieter, crueler. It's waking up one day and realizing you destroyed something pure. It's being haunted by the fact that you'll never again have the loyalty of the person who stood by you at your worst. It's trying to recreate that connection with others and failing because deep down, you know you're unworthy of it. And here's the thing, they might never admit it to you. They might never send that apology. They might never say, I was wrong. But the apology isn't the point. The point is they live every day with the weight of their decision. They carry it into every relationship, every friendship, every quiet moment. It bleeds into their confidence, their self-respect, their sense of worth. That's the invisible bill life hands them. And you rise. Because the ultimate form of justice isn't just watching them pay, it's building a life so full, so rich, so meaningful that their betrayal becomes a footnote in your story. You take back control by refusing to let the wound define you. You channel the pain into growth so profound that they become irrelevant. But never doubt this, your betraying ex is paying the price. They pay it every time they remember your loyalty and realize they can't find it again. They pay it every time they look at themselves and see the cracks they caused. They pay it in the trust they can't rebuild, the love they can't sustain, the peace they can't feel, and the cruelest part, they did it to themselves. Betrayal is a self-inflicted wound disguised as a victory. It feels like freedom in the moment, but over time it becomes a cage, and while they're stuck in that cage, you'll be walking free. Scarred, yes, but stronger, more discerning, more grounded in your own worth. And that's the ultimate triumph, knowing you survived what they thought would destroy you and watching as they sink under the weight of their own choices. So if you've ever wondered, will they ever face consequences? The answer is yes, they already are. Every day they live with the person they became when they betrayed you, they pay a little more of that price. And there's no refund for what they've lost. Betrayal always comes with a debt. And it is a debt that cannot be avoided, bargained away, or erased by charm or distraction. It is written into the moral structure of reality, and reality has a way of keeping score whether people acknowledge it or not. When your ex chose to betray you, they didn't just make a momentary mistake. They set a chain of consequences in motion. At the time, they might have convinced themselves they were getting ahead. Maybe they thought they were outsmarting you, manipulating the situation in their favor, or moving on to something better. In their mind, they may have even celebrated it as a victory, but victories built on treachery are illusions because the cost is already ticking in the background. The thing about betrayal is that it doesn't just harm the victim, it stains the betrayer. It leaves a mark on their character, an invisible scar that others can sense over time. People can feel it, even if they can't quite explain why. That's why someone who betrays often finds their relationship slowly unraveling later. They've damaged their own ability to maintain real connections. Every time they think they've left the past behind, reality catches up with them. The debt collects itself in subtle, relentless ways. Life has an almost poetic sense of justice. The one who thought they won by lying, cheating, or backstabbing begins to notice that good things start slipping away from them. It might start with small inconveniences, relationships that don't work out, opportunities that fall apart, friendships that fade. But as time goes on, the pattern becomes impossible to ignore. They will try to blame others or circumstances, but deep down, in the quiet moments, they know the truth. They planted this seed themselves. And here's the part they never considered. Betrayal doesn't just create external consequences, it rewires a person internally. To betray someone, you have to lie to yourself first. You have to convince yourself that what you're doing is justified, that the other person somehow deserved it, or that you're entitled to act without regard for loyalty. Once that lie takes root, it becomes part of who you are. And the problem with lying to yourself is that it erodes your own sense of reality. You start to live in a world where you can't fully trust anyone, not because everyone else is untrustworthy, but because you know what you yourself are capable of doing. That's a heavy price, and it's one they carry every single day. The debt of betrayal isn't like a bill you can pay off all at once. It's more like a lifelong tax. Every time they try to form a new relationship, the ghost of what they did shows up. Every time they meet someone who reminds them of you, there's a flash of guilt they can't completely suppress. Every time they see loyalty in another person, they feel the sting of knowing they destroyed it when it was given to them. And that quiet sting, that's part of the payment. What they don't realize in the beginning is that betrayal closes certain doors forever. They may think they can come back later, apologize, and have things go back to the way they were. But reality doesn't work that way. Once trust is broken, it doesn't return to its original state. Even if the betrayed forgives, the relationship will never again be what it was. And deep down, that knowledge gnaws at them. It's a constant reminder of what they lost. The debt becomes heavier with each passing year because the further away they get from what they had, the more they understand its value. Even worse for them, time has a way of exposing people. At first, they might hide what they did, paint themselves as the victim, or spin the story so they look like the hero. But lies have an expiration date. The truth always leaks out, sometimes directly, sometimes in the way they carry themselves, sometimes in the patterns of their behavior that others start to notice. And when the truth catches up, they don't just lose relationships, they lose respect. Respect is one of the hardest things to regain once it's gone, and without it, life feels smaller and more unstable. So they pay. They pay with restless nights, with strained connections, with the quiet anxiety of wondering who knows the truth. They pay every time they see someone else living in peace because they know that kind of peace is out of reach for them. They pay when they try to distract themselves with new pleasures, only to find those pleasures feel hollow. The debt of betrayal is collected in moments like these, not with dramatic explosions, but with a slow, persistent erosion of happiness. And perhaps the most brutal part of the debt is this: they cannot undo it. They can't rewind the clock, can't re-choose loyalty over selfishness, can't erase the moment they made the choice to harm someone who trusted them. That's the irreversible nature of betrayal. It's a one-way door. Once you walk through it, you can't go back. You can only live with the consequences, whether you acknowledge them or not. You might not see their payment happening in front of you. In fact, most of the time, the price is paid in private. They may smile on social media, act confident in public, even pretend they've moved on. But smiles can hide cracks, and confidence can be a mask. The reality is the bill is still being collected day after day in ways they never anticipated, and there's no escaping it because the price isn't just about what happens to them externally, it's about what they've become internally. In the end, betrayal is never free. The debt might not come due all at once, but it is inevitable and it is inescapable. They might have thought they got away with it, but they didn't. They're already paying, and they'll keep paying for as long as they live with the person they became when they chose to betray you. And the harsh truth is, there is no discount, no forgiveness from reality itself. The debt is exact, and reality always gets paid in full. When your ex betrayed you, it might have felt like the damage was one-sided, like you were the one who lost everything, and they walked away untouched. In those early days, it's easy to believe that they won, that they destroyed you while somehow coming out on top. But the truth is far more brutal, and it's one that people rarely see right away. In hurting you, they damage themselves in ways they can't repair. Trust is one of the most valuable things a person can have, not just the trust others place in them, but the trust they have in themselves. When someone commits an act of betrayal, they don't just break your trust, they shatter their own integrity, and integrity is like a spine for the soul. Without it, everything else collapses over time. You can fake confidence. You can wear charm like a mask. You can pretend you're fine. But if the core is rotting, eventually the cracks show. The reality is, betrayal changes the betrayer's relationship with themselves. In order to betray, they had to make a decision to cross a moral line. They had to ignore the voice inside that told them this was wrong. And once you do that, once you silence your conscience for the sake of your own selfishness, it becomes easier to do it again. But here's the catch. Each time you do it, you lose more respect for yourself. Even if they never admit it out loud, they know who they've become, and it's not someone they can admire in the mirror. People often assume that guilt is just a fleeting feeling you can shake off, but real guilt isn't like that. Real guilt embeds itself into the mind. It shows up when you least expect it, when they hear a certain song, when they pass a familiar place, when they see someone who reminds them of you. It's that sharp, sudden sting of memory that whispers, "You destroyed something good." And no matter how much they try to drown it out, through distractions, relationships, or even arrogance, it doesn't go away. It waits. There's also a deeper, more insidious damage that comes with betrayal, the inability to truly connect with others. See, when they broke your trust, they rewired their own capacity for loyalty. They taught themselves that relationships are disposable, that people are replaceable, and that selfish gain comes before honor. And once you adopt that mindset, it follows you into every relationship you enter. They will always be guarded, not because everyone else is dangerous, but because they know they are capable of danger. And if you can't trust yourself to be faithful, you can never truly believe that others will be faithful to you. That paranoia eats away at any bond they try to build. Another price they pay is the erosion of respect from others, even if it's slow and subtle. People might not know the full details, but they pick up on patterns. They notice dishonesty. They see how someone treats those closest to them. Word spreads in ways you can't predict, and reputations are fragile things. Once people suspect that you're capable of betraying someone who stood by you, they keep their distance. And while your ex might not admit it, they'll start to feel the isolation that comes when others sense they can't be trusted. The most devastating part, though, is this. They'll never get back the version of themselves they were before they betrayed you. Even if they try to change, even if they one day regret what they did, they will always carry the stain of that choice. That moment becomes part of their personal history, a point they can't erase. You, on the other hand, can heal. You can rebuild. You can grow into someone stronger than before. But them, they're stuck with the knowledge of what they did and what it says about them as a person. And while they may try to hide it behind laughter, behind confidence, behind a new relationship or a new life, there's always a quiet, unshakable truth they can't escape. They hurt someone who loved them. They betrayed someone who was loyal. They took something pure and contaminated it with deceit. That kind of self-inflicted wound never heals cleanly. It leaves scar tissue that pulls at them for the rest of their life. They may think they moved on without consequence, but the truth is they didn't. They carry the consequence within them. It lives in their thoughts, in their restless nights, in their inability to look at themselves without remembering what they've done. It is the shadow that follows them into every room, the reminder that they traded something real for something temporary, and in doing so, they lost more than they gained. They damaged you, yes, but they destroyed something inside themselves in the process. And the cruel irony is they can't undo that damage. They can't rebuild the self-respect they lost, at least not without a deep and painful reckoning that most people like them will never choose to face. You will heal, but they will remain fractured. And that fracture, invisible to the outside world, is the heaviest price of all. The price of betrayal is rarely paid in one dramatic moment. More often, it is paid slowly in the form of a loneliness and restlessness that can't be soothed no matter how hard they try. Your ex might have believed that walking away from you or betraying you would lead them to something better, new excitement, new freedom, a fresh start. At first, maybe they even felt that thrill. But reality has a way of stripping the shine off illusions. Over time, the glitter fades and they're left with something far less glamorous, a gnawing emptiness they can't explain away. Loneliness after betrayal isn't just about being physically alone. In fact, many betrayers surround themselves with people in an attempt to prove to you, to the world, and especially to themselves that they've moved on and are happier than ever. They fill their schedules, jump into new relationships, chase distractions, and post the smiling photos. But it's all noise, because no matter how crowded the room, there's always a moment. Maybe when the music stops, maybe when they're driving home alone, when the truth comes rushing in, that truth is a cold, heavy feeling in their chest. They lost something real and they can't get it back. What makes this loneliness so piercing is that it's not caused by the absence of someone, but by the absence of the right someone. You were that person. You offered loyalty, understanding, and a kind of connection that doesn't come around often in life. And once they broke that, they created a gap inside themselves that can't be filled with shallow replacements. Sure, they might try, jumping from one person to the next, trying to recreate what they destroyed, but they'll quickly learn that loyalty can't be faked and it can't be bought. It has to be earned, and they've proven to themselves that they can't be trusted to keep it. Restlessness is the other half of the price. It's the inability to stay still, to feel content, to truly settle into peace. When you betray someone, you don't just damage that relationship, you damage your own sense of safety, because deep down they know if they could betray someone who loved them, then someone else could betray them too. That's how their mind works now. Always on guard, always waiting for the other shoe to drop. This mental state keeps them jumping from one distraction to another, one goal to another, one person to another, never fully satisfied. It's a vicious cycle. The restlessness pushes them to seek more excitement, more validation, more attention. But the more they seek, the less fulfilled they feel because they're looking in all the wrong places. They're chasing things that can't replace what they lost. And the irony is, they often don't even realize that what they're looking for is the very thing they destroyed. Stability, trust, and a deep emotional bond with someone who truly cares for them. This is where the real torment lies. It's not in the absence of people, but in the absence of peace. They might appear fine on the outside, but inside, their thoughts are restless and unsettled. They replay decisions in their mind, even if they pretend they don't. They compare new relationships to the one they had with you, even if they won't admit it. They feel the gap between what they once had and what they have now, and that gap only widens over time. Over the years, that restlessness and loneliness combine into something even more powerful: regret. It creeps in slowly at first. Maybe they remember a moment when you had their back or a time when you supported them when no one else would. But the more life tests them, the more they see the difference between real loyalty and the shallow connections they've surrounded themselves with. And with that realization comes an even deeper kind of loneliness, the loneliness of knowing they're the reason they don't have that loyalty anymore. What they don't understand until it's too late is that trust is a rare currency in life, and they've bankrupted themselves. They can try to rebuild it with others, but people sense things. They can feel the inconsistency, the cracks, the hidden selfishness. And so the betrayer remains on the outside, smiling and pretending, but never truly feeling like they belong anywhere. That is the slow, invisible punishment life gives to people who betray, the inability to rest, the inability to feel truly safe with anyone, and the knowledge, often buried deep but always there, that the person they once felt most at home with is gone for good. And it doesn't matter how much time passes or how many faces they see, there will always be a shadow in their heart where your loyalty used to be. This is why betrayal always comes with a cost that can't be measured in money or status. It's a price paid in the quiet hours of the night, in the uneasy shifting of their thoughts, in the restless searching for something they'll never find again. And the cruelest part, they could have had peace, they could have had loyalty, they could have had you, but instead they traded all of that for a temporary thrill, and now they're left paying with a loneliness that no crowd can cure and a restlessness that no amount of running can escape. What your ex saw as their grand victory was nothing more than a temporary high, a fleeting sense of power and freedom that would never last. In the moment of betrayal, they probably felt like they had the upper hand. They might have believed they'd escaped something, that they had outsmarted you, or that their new path would bring them more excitement, more happiness, more fulfillment. But what they didn't realize is that victories built on dishonor are like sandcastles. They look solid for a moment, but they crumble quickly under the tides of reality. When someone betrays a person who was loyal to them, they may think they're walking into a better life, but what they're actually doing is stepping into a trap they've set for themselves. That victory they celebrate isn't the end of the story. It's the first page of a much harder chapter. Sure, in the early days, it might seem like they're thriving. They might flaunt their choices, post about their happiness, and act as if they've moved on without a scratch. But this is only the surface. Beneath that carefully curated appearance, the cracks are already forming. The truth is, what they gained was momentary, but what they lost was permanent. They traded lasting loyalty for temporary pleasure. They gave up someone who knew their flaws and still stood by them for something shiny and new that can never carry the same depth. The rush they felt at first is the same rush a gambler feels after winning one lucky hand. It's exciting, but it's not sustainable. And soon the excitement fades, leaving them with the reality that their so-called win came at the cost of something irreplaceable. Meanwhile, while they're chasing that next thrill, you've been healing, you've been building yourself back up. At first, it might have been slow, painful even. There were probably days you questioned your worth, nights when you replayed every moment wondering how they could have done this to you. But over time, something shifted. You began to see their betrayal for what it truly was, a reflection of their character, not your value. You started putting your energy into yourself, your growth, your goals, your future. And here's where the balance of power really changes. Their victory was quick and shallow, but your healing is deep and lasting. Every step you take toward becoming stronger and more resilient is a step further away from their control over you. Every accomplishment, every moment of peace you create for yourself is proof that they didn't break you. They freed you from someone who could never value you properly, and that realization is powerful. As you rise, they start to feel the difference. Even if they don't say it, they notice that the person they thought would stay broken has become someone unshakable. They see your strength, your composure, your ability to move forward without them, and it stirs something inside them they can't quite name, regret. Because deep down, they know they can't go back to what they had. They can't unbetray you. They can't undo the choice that ripped apart something real. And this is the cruel irony of betrayal. The person who thought they had won ends up trapped in a cycle of chasing empty highs, while the person they tried to destroy ends up building a life so full and strong that the betrayal becomes nothing more than a chapter in their past. Your stability will outlast their chaos. Your peace will outshine their restlessness. Your growth will outlive their short-lived thrill. They will start to realize, often too late, that they gave up a future with someone who genuinely cared for them in exchange for a fleeting moment of selfish satisfaction. They might look back and remember the times you stood by them, supported them, believed in them, and the contrast with what they have now will sting. That sting is the price. It's the slow dawning of the truth. They didn't win. They lost everything that mattered. You, on the other hand, will carry your scars not as reminders of weakness, but as proof of survival. You will know that you walked through something meant to break you and came out stronger. And that's the difference. While they're still trying to fill the void left by their own actions, you will already be living in the light of your own rebuilding. So their victory, it was never real. It was an illusion, a sugar rush that faded quickly and left them with the bitter aftertaste of consequences. Your healing, however, is the real triumph. It's the kind of win that doesn't fade because it's built on self-respect, growth, and resilience. And that is something no betrayal can take from you. In the end, their so-called success will be forgotten, but your strength will remain. And that's the legacy they can never steal. One of the heaviest burdens your ex will carry is the knowledge that they can never get back what they lost when they betrayed you. At the time, they might not have realized how rare and valuable your loyalty, trust, and love truly were. They might have thought they could find it anywhere, that there would always be someone else who could give them the same unwavering commitment you did. But life has a way of teaching harsh lessons, and the lesson here is brutal. Once those things are gone, they are gone forever. Loyalty is not something you stumble upon every day. It's something built over time, forged in shared struggles, in moments of vulnerability, in standing by each other when things get hard. When your ex chose betrayal, they didn't just break a promise. They destroyed the very foundation of that loyalty. And no matter how much they might wish it later, they can't simply rebuild it with you, because betrayal leaves scars that never completely fade. Even if you forgive, the trust will never be as pure, as complete as it once was. That knowledge will live with them like a shadow they can't shake. Trust is even more fragile. It takes years to build, but only seconds to break. You gave them your trust freely, believing they would protect it, value it, honor it. Instead, they threw it away for a selfish choice. The cruel part is that they might not feel the full weight of that loss right away. In the moment, they may have felt powerful, in control, even justified, but time changes perspective. Sooner or later, they'll look back and realize that in a world full of people who are cautious, guarded, and self-protective, they once had someone who opened their heart completely, and they destroyed it. That's not the kind of loss you recover from. Love, too, has its own kind of finality. You didn't just love them casually, you loved them deeply in a way that saw past their flaws and believed in their potential. That kind of love is rare. It doesn't come from infatuation or convenience. It comes from seeing the person in their entirety and still choosing to stay, and yet they chose to betray it. The day they did that, they closed a door that can never truly be reopened. They might search for that kind of love again, but they will only find fragments, echoes of what they once had. And every time they come up short, they'll be reminded of what they gave up. The haunting part for them is not just the loss, it's the awareness that it was self-inflicted. You didn't walk away because you stopped caring. You didn't abandon them without reason. They forced this outcome by their own actions, and that fact is a weight they'll carry long after the details fade. Whenever they remember your kindness, your sacrifices, your loyalty, there will be an ache in their chest, a mix of regret and self-reproach that no distraction can fully silence. As life moves forward, they'll have moments when they think about you unexpectedly. Maybe they'll hear a song you both loved, or they'll pass by a place you used to go together. Maybe they'll face a challenge and remember the way you stood beside them when no one else would. These moments will hit them like sudden waves, pulling them back to a time when they had someone in their corner no matter what. And with every memory comes the sharp reminder they will never have that again. Over time, this realization becomes more than just occasional regret. It becomes a permanent undercurrent in their life. New relationships will feel different, less secure, less deep. They may not even understand why at first, but the truth is simple. It's hard to fully trust again when you know you're capable of betrayal. They will always wonder if the other person might do to them what they did to you. And that fear will keep them from ever feeling completely safe in love again. There's also the reality that people change after betrayal, both the betrayed and the betrayer. You will have grown stronger, wiser, and more protective of your own heart. You will no longer offer the same blind loyalty you once did, and they will sense that if they ever cross your path again, they might try to win you back, but they'll feel the difference, the distance, the boundaries, the lack of trust. That gap is the direct consequence of their choice, and it's a gap that can't be closed. The price they pay is not just about losing you, it's about losing the version of themselves that could have kept you. Before the betrayal, they were someone who had your respect, your trust, your love. Now, no matter what else they accomplish, they know that they are also someone who threw those things away. That truth will live in the back of their mind, shaping how they see themselves and how they move through the world. And perhaps the most punishing part is this: time won't heal this for them the way it will for you. You'll rebuild, you'll create a life that's full without them, and eventually the pain will fade. But for them, the memory of what they lost will only sharpen with time, because they'll keep encountering situations and people that remind them of what they once had and destroyed. They will learn over and over that loyalty, trust, and deep love aren't things you can replace once they're gone. They are once-in-a-lifetime gifts. They had those gifts and they threw them away. That's the kind of mistake you don't get to undo, and the kind of loss you never stop feeling.